This is going to be a talk about metadata hiding communication. And I think all work on metadata hiding communication and private communication more generally recognizes that we live in a surveillance dystopia. And all of this research kind of embodies our hope that we can build some technology that will somehow help us escape from these all-seeing surveillance eyes that are kind of shadowing our society today. And our hope is that we can build the technology that will help us kind of move forward and get out of this dystopia. So this talk is actually about a different dystopia, a private dystopia. And in this dystopia, think back to like you're in middle school. And the dystopia is not that someone is surveilling you, but the dystopia is that somebody is bullying you. And you are not happy about the messages that you're receiving. They are making you feel bad. And you would like to be able to take recourse in some authority who can kind of help you. And typically, if you're on a messaging platform, that authority is some moderator that is employed by the platform. And your hope is that the moderator can make some decision about what should happen. Maybe the person messaging you can be banned or something else can be done. Unfortunately, in this dystopia, all the work that we are doing to prevent the larger dystopia might actually be a hindrance to solving our problems. Because now if the moderator can't see the content, maybe the moderator is unable to make decisions about whether that content really was sent through the platform at all. And if the platform is metadata hiding, we're even in a worse position because the moderator doesn't even know if the person you were talking to is actually using the platform in the first place. So these problems make the question of handling abuse reports a challenge in private communication platforms. So this talk is about how can we report abuse on encrypted platforms, particularly platforms that provide metadata hiding in addition to end-to-end encryption. So the way that this works in practice today, if you are using WhatsApp and somebody is bullying you or sends you spam and you want to report the message, they use a tool called message franking that was developed by Meta. So I'll briefly review how message franking works. The way that message franking works is the ciphertext that you would send as a client to the server is actually a two-part ciphertext, C1 and C2, where C1 is a standard authenticated encryption ciphertext that you are going to send, and C2 is a commitment to the message. So C2 is a commitment separate from the encryption, and the randomness for generating this commitment is stored inside of the authenticated encryption ciphertext for the message itself. So the randomness is there. When you send that to the platform, which acts as the moderator, appends some additional information to the ciphertext. So what they add is first, they append some context. This is information about the identity of the sender of the message. This might be information about the timestamp of when the message is sent. This is stuff that if you were later to report the message, this would be relevant for a moderator to have the information. And then the platform also appends a tag, and this tag is just a MAC under a key that is owned by the moderator that MACs the commitment as well as the context. And the idea here is that this MAC authenticates this information from the platform side. So when you come back later and give that information to the platform knows that you're reporting something that actually went through the platform and isn't just something you spun out of whole cloth and are trying to like frame somebody. So this is how message franking works, and it's deployed in WhatsApp and it works very well. But like I said before, this talk is about metadata hiding platforms, and it turns out the situation is unfortunately worse if you're hiding metadata. And the reason is not hard to see at all. The reason is that if you're hiding metadata, this context information about who's sending messages is exactly the kind of information that you're trying to hide. So this metadata about who's sending messages is not available to the platform when you're hiding the metadata. So we need to have some way to get around this, and there has been prior work to do this. So there is asymmetric message franking and the Hecate system, which do allow you to verifiably report abuse for metadata hiding platforms, but they come with a few orders of magnitude increase in the overhead for this abuse reporting mechanism. And they also lose certain benefits of conventional message franking, like conventional message franking was actually just using only symmetric crypto primitives, but now you need to use public key primitives as well, sometimes zero knowledge proofs, kind of more heavyweight tools. So the main idea we have is that we can actually do much, much better than the prior work by taking a non-generic approach to how we think about the metadata hiding platforms. So if we look at the metadata hiding platforms that are proposed either in the literature or in practice, there's like a few families of approaches that are common. People are using mixed nets or things inspired by mixed nets or DC nets, or maybe systems that use MPC. So there's kind of a few families of approaches, and my goal here is to look at those families of approaches and build kind of bespoke schemes that work for a particular family of approaches. So the idea is we know things about what the servers in the system are doing, and maybe we can take advantage of that. So in this work, we show that by taking advantage of the structure of schemes that are based on secret sharing, this includes schemes that use MPC or DCnets, we can achieve abuse reporting with much, much better performance than was otherwise possible, also still just sticking to symmetric cryptographic primitives. So we call this shared franking, and I'm going to give you kind of a high-level overview of how it works. The goal is to get like a standard message franking type protocol that works for schemes that use secret sharing. And the setting I'm going to focus on here is one where we're using MPC. So the idea is a number of clients are each secret sharing the things that they would have sent to the server. And they all send that to 2 servers on the slide, and this generalizes to however many servers you want. And after receiving shares from a number of clients, the servers run some MPC protocol that results in all of the shares being shuffled. So they then merge their shares. They get a list of messages that are a permutation of the inputs. So this kind of breaks the connection between the message senders and the message recipients. So the first observation here, and just note that we're using this bracket notation to denote secret sharing. So the client sends their shares of their message to the 2 servers. And the first simple but important observation is that here, the servers do know who is sending the messages. The work of breaking the connection between the message sender and the message recipient happens after the shares are uploaded to the servers. This means that at message sending time, one of the servers can act as the moderator. That server is able to authenticate the user if it wants to, or collect information about the IP address that's sending the messages. It knows what time it is. So all this kind of context information that was lost is actually available to the servers at this moment in time. So this is the place where we can insert some kind of abuse reporting functionality. Now, there are a number of problems. We can't just use message franking right away. The first and most obvious problem is that the server knows the context, but the server doesn't actually have the ciphertext. This commitment piece, C2, that the server needed to MAC is not available to the server because the server only has a share of the commitment. So what are we going to do? What we do here is instead of having the server MAC the commitment itself, the server, in a sense, MACs a commitment to the commitment. So each of the servers has a share of the commitment. What they do is these shares have a lot of entropy because they're random. They can hash the shares, and if we model the hash function as a random oracle, the output will also look random, and those things are all sent to the moderator. So now the moderator has a list of random things that bind it to the original message, and the moderator MACs this instead of the commitment to the message itself. So it's got a commitment to a commitment that is then MACed. The problem here is that we have produced a MAC that binds us to the message, but if the message then goes through an MPC, the actual bit string that comes out of the MPC is not going to be the same bit string that went into the MPC, even if the shares still add up to the same message or the same commitment to the message. So we need to do something to be able to use this MAC because the MAC is effectively unusable. It's a MAC on a version of the secret sharing that no longer exists. So we get around this by using a verifiably reproducible sharing. So what I mean by this is first, the sharing is reproducible. This is easy to do. You can make the sharing reproducible by keeping the randomness used to generate the secret sharing and just including that in the first part of the ciphertext. This C1 piece includes the randomness for the secret sharing so that when you receive a message and report it, you can send that randomness to the moderator. The moderator can regenerate the shares that were used at message sending time, and then the MAC can be verified. So this is all well and good. The problem is solved. But unfortunately, there's another problem. And the other problem, and I didn't get to go into the security properties we need here. It's all in the paper. But the other problem is there's an accountability issue. A property you would want in an abuse reporting scheme is that a malicious sender who knows they're sending abusive content should not be able to avoid using the scheme. Shouldn't be able to evade the protections that we're building in. And that's exactly what's actually possible here. It's very easy for a malicious sender to just lie about the random seed that it used to generate the secret shares, and then nobody knows this is a problem until you go and report a message. And then when you report the message, the moderator fails to generate the same shares, the MAC doesn't verify, and the sender of the message gets away scot-free. So the issue here is that there's no verification that that the message is kind of well-formed and has the correct random seed until after you have reported a message. So to get around this, we need some extra work to be done at message receiving time so that your phone can detect if a message is like not going to be able to be moderated and can discard the message before showing it to the user. The way that we do this is we add an additional checksum that's created by the moderator when processing a message. And what the moderator does is it simply hashes everything that it has kind of received or produced. It hashes that list of shares, the hashes of shares that commit to the commitment. It hashes the context. It hashes the tag that it produced. And it appends that to the message as well. Now, the recipient's phone checks that this hash checks out. So it checks this tag T prime, hashes to the correct value. And in doing that, that hash will only work if the shares that have been regenerated are the exact same shares that were used at the message sending time. So it checks that like kind of the shares have been generated correctly. And once it knows that if it were to send these shares to the moderator would be able to verify the MAC. So that's what makes this sharing verifiably reproducible. And that's the whole basic shared franking scheme. There's additional work that you need to do if you're in a DCNet setting where there's like a long vector sent where only one entry of that vector actually holds the message. Then you need to use some MPC techniques to blindly append the tag to like the correct part of the long vector. And you can see the papers for details about that as well as other generalizations and optimizations on this basic idea. I want to give you some performance highlights before we run out of time. So this is for MPC-based schemes compared to Hecate, which is the best prior work that applies in this regime. We're about 2.5 times faster in terms of the overhead produced by abuse reporting for sending a message, and about 20 to 30 times faster in terms of the processing messages on the servers, reading messages on a client device, and then verifying a report that's been sent to the moderator. And most of these operations come in within about 2 times the performance overhead of message franking for standard end-to-end encryption. So we're kind of hitting the limit of how fast this could be compared to the existing end-to-end encrypted setting. So to wrap up, the high-level takeaway here is that by looking at the structure of the messaging scheme that we're using to hide metadata, we can get a message franking style solution that actually does work in the metadata hiding setting. And by doing this, we're getting about an order of magnitude or more speed up over the best prior work. So that's all I had to say. Happy to take any questions you might have.